What is wildlife habitat? Lesson 5, Space and Spatial Arrangement. The fourth component of wildlife habitat is space and spatial arrangement. Think of space as the size or area of a specific habitat, and spatial arrangement as how different habitats or how food, cover, and water components of habitat are arranged across a landscape. The size of a habitat is important for a few primary reasons. First, many bird species require habitats larger than a certain minimum size. We call these species area-sensitive or area-dependent species. For example, bobolinks require tall grass hayfields, but they are unlikely to occur in fields smaller than 5 to 10 acres in size. Upland sandpipers require short grass fields, and they are unlikely to occur in fields less than about 100 acres in size. So in New England, where we don't have many 100-acre fields, upland sandpipers are very uncommon, whereas bobolinks are comparatively easy to find because there are still many fields large enough to meet their needs. In New England, there are numerous bird species associated with wetland, forest, and grassland habitats that are area-sensitive. Area-sensitive species are the first to disappear from a landscape when habitats get fragmented due to development or when a portion of the habitat is converted to a different habitat type. The size or area of a habitat is also important because it influences how many individuals of the same species can meet their needs within that habitat. This is especially true for wildlife species that defend breeding territories against other individuals of their same species. Here, we can see the territory boundaries of male common yellowthroats within a shrubby transmission line right-of-way. If half of the shrubby habitat were allowed to grow up into mature trees, there would be less room to accommodate these birds, and a fewer number of total individuals would be expected to occupy the remaining habitat. Some wildlife species are territorial and aggressive towards other species. For example, red foxes may avoid entering eastern coyote territories, and foxes may locate their territories in the spaces where coyotes are less likely to occur. These fox and coyote territories in Maine were arranged within a 25 square kilometer landscape. In a smaller landscape, coyote territories might occupy the entire area and effectively exclude foxes. Many wildlife species require more than one habitat to meet their daily or seasonal requirements, so how different habitats are arranged across a landscape is important. For example, we've learned that spotted salamanders spend most of their time in the forest, but in spring, they require wetlands such as vernal pools for breeding, and they may travel over 300 yards to get to a vernal pool. But if a large parking lot or a major road is built, it may create a barrier that makes it impossible for salamanders to move between their required habitats. So although both habitats still occur within the landscape, the required vernal pool is located in an area where it is no longer accessible to salamanders. This salamander population is now unable to breed and will eventually be lost from this landscape. What species occur within a habitat is often strongly influenced by what other habitats are immediately adjacent. For example, here in my backyard, which is about 1/4 acre of wildflowers and shrubs, here I regularly observe birds such as scarlet tanagers, red-eyed vireos, and yellow-bellied sapsuckers that require mature forest as their primary habitat. These birds come into my backyard to forage for insects only because the mature forest they require is located immediately adjacent to my property, and the birds can easily access the insects in my yard. I would not expect to see these birds in my yard if my property were surrounded by large fields, or if I were in the middle of a suburban development, far away from the mature forest these birds require. Finally, some wildlife species that are associated with certain habitats may require specific habitat components that occur within other habitat types. For example, the primary habitat of wood ducks is shallow ponds, streams, and marshes. But wood ducks also require cavity trees greater than 18 inches in diameter for nesting. So ideal wood duck habitat is a landscape where mature forest with cavity trees is located around or within a half a mile of the wetlands where wood ducks spend most of their time. If cavity trees or wood duck boxes aren't available for nesting, wood ducks may not occur within an otherwise ideal wetland habitat. Or if wood ducks do occur, they are unlikely to be able to breed successfully. As a general rule, we should expect that landscapes composed of a variety of different forest, upland non-forest, and wetland habitat types, with habitats that are large and unfragmented and well interspersed in relation to one another, will allow a large diversity of wildlife species to easily move among different habitat types to meet their daily and seasonal needs for food, cover, and water. We should expect that fewer wildlife species will be supported by landscapes composed of fewer habitat types, or where the habitats occur only in small fragments that are difficult for wildlife to access due to landscape features such as very large agricultural fields, as depicted in this photo, or multi-lane highways and urban development that function as barriers to movement for many wildlife species. This landscape in the Champlain Valley of northern Vermont likely provides incredible habitat for the few wildlife species that require large, expansive fields, but it probably supports a low abundance and diversity of wildlife that require mature forest, young forest, and wetland habitats. This series of presentations was developed by Matt Tarr, Extension Professor, Wildlife Specialist for the University of New Hampshire Cooperative Extension. Please don't hesitate to contact Matt directly if you have any questions about these presentations or if you would like assistance assessing and managing habitat on your property.